Hello, friends, and welcome to Worldbuild with us, the podcast where we create fantastical worlds with help from you, our listeners. My name is Rob Hilferty, and I'm here with my co-hosts Daniel Quinn and Courtney Staples. On today's episode, we are going back in time, doing our yearly retrospective of Worldbuild with us. We're going to bring back some old classics, talk about the 25, yes, that's correct, 25 different worlds that we've created. 52 episodes, some of them doubled up. We've got interviews with some of our favorites. We went through all sorts of fun stuff, jams, winter jams, interviews with Daniel and Courtney, which was a treat. But before we go through this year in review, I want to remind everyone that if you want us to build your world, you can always go to our website, worldbuildwithus.com, where you can click the link, follow some instructions, and within a reasonable amount of time, we'll be building your world. In 2024, 2023, we're done. We're wrapped on that. We're just looking ahead to the future, right? By the way, if you want to follow us on social media, you can follow us on Twitter at Let's Worldbuild, or we've got a YouTube channel where you can subscribe, click the bell, all that good stuff. But if you'd rather talk to us more directly, you can go to our Discord where you can chat with us about world building, about 2023. What was your favorite world that we built this year? Let us know. Tell us what's going on. And of course, if you're feeling particularly generous, you can always go to our Patreon and give us money there. You can get access to all sorts of extra goodies for being a patron. You've got a Discord chat. You've got 2 episodes instead of 1 for all of your prompts. And you've got access to the Aphid Lounge, which are extra series that we do. And we also have Too Hot for Broadcast, where Courtney takes out the most embarrassing bits and puts them in a nice, compilation of how embarrassing can it be for us. And that's just a free service. Well, not free because you got to pay for it on Patreon, but we provide that whenever it's available. And before we truly get going on this episode, I want to thank each and every one of you. If you're a new listener or an old listener, 2023 has been a massive year for Worldbuild with us. We've had our biggest year ever since the creation of this way back in, I believe it's 2019. So we're going on 4 years strong, and we would not be here without the love, support, and listening of you, our listeners. So thank you, truly. Thank you all from here at Worldbuild with us for your continued support and love. Now, with all that sappy shit out the way, let's dive right into 2023. Guys, it's been a hell of a year. It's been a roller coaster. And where do we start? Where do y'all want to start? Does anyone have any particular world that they're chomping at the bit to talk about?
I mean, we had a lot of, like you said, 25 worlds this year. And looking back, it's definitely that feeling of wait, shit, that was this year? That's felt so long ago.
A lot of that.
A lot of that. And we had, some really fun, ridiculous ones like Land of 1,000 Beef Queens, for example. That was pretty ridiculous. But we also had some pretty dark, serious ones. And
yes, Courtney, you were on the podcast this year. That's true. Yeah.
That is true. Yes, I was here. And so in that vein, I shockingly am eager to take another look at the Womb of 1,000 Flesh Gardens.
Oh, God. I knew you were going to do that one. Oh, man. Okay.
So I didn't bring anything to add to it. I'm open to rolling some dice to see what we can come up with. But for people who haven't listened to it, of course, I strongly recommend going back and checking it out. It's a 2-part series from our patron Kaiser, who tasked us with I think it was a underwater BioShock setting basically, and we proceeded to just make it really disgusting and vile and
awful.
Horrific.
We made it awful. Yes.
I mean, the name of the setting, Womb of 1,000 Flesh Gardens, it kind of tells you what you're in for, I think.
Yeah, I think that's correct. I think that's it says what it is on the tin. Yes. Yeah, I think that's correct for sure.
Very evocative. Yeah. And I just liked that sort of descent into disgusting madness that we built up in that setting, where we had kind of ended it with a quest line where you were going to play X-Files-esque investigators, or it could be, any sort of setting. I think Miami Vice was another alternative, depending on what kind of mood you wanted.
Oh
And
shit, that was a fun idea. Yeah, that was really fun. Yeah.
And then you would sort of investigate on, the surface of the earth and find all these clues that led you to go down in a submersible to the deepest part of the Atlantic Ocean, where you walk into what was once an Eden under the sea, and it's now very fleshy and overgrown with flesh.
Look, you got to eat somehow, right? And if it just means that you're taking off like a little bit of flesh from the walls and just munching on it, that, or perhaps you're just creating a giant flesh amalgam, or basically a mech suit but made out of meat parts, and losing your humanity in the process, a la a Big Daddy. When it gets so bad that the US government wants to bury you in a mudslide in a fault line, I get it. I get it. Yeah.
Is this the one with the people who had gone down there and they ended up being like flesh infected or something, and then the actual protagonist came down, they were like another faction in there?
I think that the way that we positioned it was similar to BioShock, in that you could position it so you're like entering this world as a newcomer, as someone who's, like, unfamiliar with it. So yes.
Yeah.
I think that was your faction. Yeah. Like you had some kind of people who were like half mutated or something.
Wait, and you're right, because it was something with, like, I think at some point the CIA infiltrated this place, because it was like originally a socialist communist paradise, and there was meddling, and
things went wrong.
Then things went very wrong
because the government didn't want that to prevail, to succeed.
Correct. Yeah. Because we're positioning in the 1950s. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah. It's like, we can't let this happen. So
I know, this will fuck up our salaries.
Yeah. And that's why they buried the thing in a giant fault line. Yeah.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Other than the flesh lakes, were there any other horrific discoveries I'm trying to remember about the place?
What do you mean besides the flesh lakes, Daniel?
Trying to see if I could take into account the other ones.
There was
was there an actual womb, right, of some kind, or was that just metaphorical?
The entire thing was a giant flesh womb. Yes.
Yeah, I think it was like as you got to the center, it became more horrific, and I think that was like the worst part of it, is this womb thing.
Okay.
Yes.
We also had another womb later this year, didn't we?
Did we?
Flesh womb sort of thing.
Was
it a recent?
We did have one in the just the interview, the random world.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Look, we have go-tos here, Daniel. Okay, flesh gardens and flesh wombs and amalgams are kind of a go-to. Look, just like if Courtney allows for blood sacrifice, there will be blood sacrifice. We will inevitably drift back towards a giant flesh amalgam at some point. Okay,
exactly.
Yeah,
it's just our thing. But yeah, it also was like part of the issue had been that there was a cat that somehow got into one of these vats of like material that
I'm remembering this now.
Yeah, and like basically it's the toxoplasmosis from the cat ended up being this huge issue, because that led to this like mind control kind of not quite zombification, but it like really fucked with your mind a lot.
That's really clever.
Yeah, we did a good job with that one.
I was gonna say, like, Daniel, we have a pretty cool show. I gotta say,
that was pretty good.
I know you don't listen to the show, but we have a good idea.
I like when there's like a little bit of sci-fi sprinkled in there.
Yeah.
Daniel finally recognizing, hey, this show's pretty cool sometimes.
Begrudgingly showing up.
Yeah. Well, this is the part of the episode where we reveal that Daniel pre-records all of his lines, so he has no idea what we're saying.
You guys have been piecing it together with AI the whole time. I gave you like a bunch of words to work with.
Yeah. We just go with the keywords and we kind of put you in. Yeah. I mean, yeah.
But my faction in this one had been the people who are trapped down there, kind of dulling the horror of the setting with drugs. That has like hallucinogenic properties, and they basically harvested it from their own bodies because of the way this flesh stuff grew. It was gross. You're welcome, I guess.
Didn't they also have like hadn't they figured out how to make like food from a paste or something?
Yeah, that was the whole like flesh stuff. It's like they had nutrient vats
It
basically.
just got out of control. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. I was into that. I'm like, I thought that was a good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Because that's when like the cat did something, tipped something over, fell into it, and then it got the toxic
Food
osmosis.
safety. Gordon Ramsay says,
Yeah.
you can't cross contaminate. That's what happens.
Yeah, they weren't like going by food safety laws. They had open
Mhm.
containers in the flesh garden area.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mice and toasters.
I think that I coined the phrase flesh gardens and then immediately regretted it
Yeah.
because it's horrifying.
It's pretty horrifying. Yeah.
Yeah, but I do remember that neither of you had like played BioShock, which to me
Yeah.
was like pretty wild because I'm pretty sure that in the beginning I just pushed it towards BioShock as much as I possibly could, and then we added flesh into it, and it just became real gross. Yeah, I literally shuddered. By the way, like that was not radio. That was me being like actually grossed out by the fact that I'm like picturing, because I remember like there was like a parasitic element to it as well, where people would like attach like biomass to themselves in order to like make themselves stronger or give themselves like conch armor basically and stuff like that. So God, it was awful and I hate it. And also it's pretty cool. So
it's great.
I think that by far is probably the most Clark episode without Clark that we've ever done. So yeah.
I'm into the flesh too, of course.
Yeah, right. No, right. But like every time Clark comes on, it's always like, how can we Cronenberg the setting up? How can we crank up the Cronenberg knob as much as possible? So, oh boy, yeah, that was a great one. So, what do we want to do to kind of expand that universe just a little bit, that setting just a little bit?
Yeah, I'm not sure. Like I said, I didn't bring anything with me, so I am open to going with dice rolls for this one.
Hell yeah. I'm
like
down.
a twist or something.
Or something, yeah.
So yeah, I think that we'll roll some dice. We'll roll twist, and we'll see what we've got going on for the flesh gardens. See how can we spruce up these flesh gardens, right? And by the way, if you are a patron, you can add to our twist list, as we've got a couple of new twists on the list. And as per our semi-yearly custom, we are starting over with our twist list. So now is the best time to add your twists if you are one of our fabulous patrons. So our first roll and our twist is going to be, this is very appropriate considering who it's from. It's got to have trains in it, coming from Kaiser. This is a Kaiser setting, so of course we've got to add some trains. So Courtney, I hate to ask this question, what do flesh trains look like? See, I'm of a couple of minds about it, but I want to hear what you guys say first.
So I think there could be a couple ways to go about it. One way, we could have like a subway type system in this flesh underwater base thing. So like a subway system that you would be able to use when you're traversing it, basically just like fast travel around the map essentially. But I'm sure that it would come with its own issues, including fleshy trains that I guess they would just like make gooey noises when they move. I don't know, leave blood trails all over the tracks. Another way to think about it is like maybe there's a train station deep in the center of this place that leads to another base, perhaps. That we hadn't built out. Maybe there is actually like a network down there that wasn't discovered, or maybe it was like the bases were only partially built or something, but there is other stuff out there still.
Okay. Hold on. I've got an idea for that. So there's like the public transit trains, right? And those have been completely overtaken by flesh, right? It's basically a giant digestive tract at this point. Yeah, exactly. So imagine like walls contracting and like pushing this thing through a track system. Horrible, right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But the stuff that you're talking about, those to me sound like service tunnels. And I feel like those are tunnels that have not been fleshified yet. So you can have that parallel system of flesh and mechanical as well, which is something that I think that we didn't really dive enough into in the setting itself. But I think that, one, it will satisfy the twist twice, and two, you can have your cake and eat it too. And by cake, I mean horrifying digestive system as a subway system.
Delicious. Yeah. I do like the idea that you could potentially find these tunnels that lead somewhere else undiscovered that haven't been contaminated yet. But of course, like, you would have to figure out how to open it without immediately contaminating it.
Yeah, that's a good point too, huh?
Yeah.
Like, it's hermetically sealed, so any exposure that you have, like, you're going to threaten, like making it a giant stomach again.
Yeah.
By the way, the noise that it would make as it travels is like borborygmos or digestion, where it's just like the entire time, the sound that your stomach makes, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome.
It makes me wonder if because now this whole thing is this larger organism, it can become sick from foreign bodies entering it.
Ooh.
Oh, we didn't even talk about the idea that there's probably a self-defense, like what do the white blood cell responses look like? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh, that's great, Daniel. That's a great question that we should explore. Yeah, for sure.
And yeah, what happens when it can't fight off an infection? Ugh.
Oh, what happens if the subway system becomes infected? Like, oh God, that's really gross. Because now I'm just picturing like abscesses and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like ulcers on the side of the
Or hey, you know what happened to me this year? I got my gallbladder removed. So that's the thing. So I can also imagine, like, hey, what happens if your organs just fucking die inside of you? Yeah, that's a great question.
Yeah. I mean, based on what you said, it's fairly painful when that happens.
It is in fact very painful. Yes, absolutely.
Pretty unpleasant overall. So I wonder if like the whole base starts to like twist and contract in agony when this stuff happens. Like, part of it dies off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's gross, and I hate talking about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to talk about this anymore because it's grossing me out that much. Honestly.
That's fair.
We do have two other settings that we can get to, I guess. So
yeah, and I don't think we need to build out where this other train leads to. That's sealed off. Like,
yeah, I think that's a mystery we leave.
Yeah, sure. I think that somebody else could, do whatever they want with it in their own game or story or whatever.
Yeah. That's where all the cocaine is stored if you're doing a Vice, like a Miami Vice type story.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. Okay, we should probably move on, I think. I think that's a good idea.
Away from the flush trains, yeah.
Yes, please. Yeah, I would appreciate that, actually. So, Daniel, what is the setting that you wanted to revisit for 2023? It's been a long year, a fruitful year. We've got so many bangers just in the chamber. So, where did you want to go?
I have a toss-up between two places.
What do you got, Daniel?
So the first one is the Catalina Wizards. What was it called?
With the wine. Yeah.
Isle of 1,000 Wines.
Yes, you had a fun name for it, sub name on the episode.
Oh, Catalina Wizard Mixer.
Yeah, that was it. That one, or the other one I really liked. It's the 1,000 Vacations. So the Twisted theme park.
Oh,
the gnomes.
Yeah, the City of 1,000 Vacations.
Oh yeah, Mengele Park. I remember.
Yeah.
Distinctly.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure which one I want to do. Like,
Well, personally, I would aim towards the older one just because the Catalina Wizard Mixer is so fresh in memory. So, but also at the same time, it
was really good.
Yeah.
I feel like I agree with you on the Vacations because we had also the interesting mechanism of designing park rides, which was cool.
Yeah, that was fun. That was fun.
So I think you're right that we should look at the older one.
Great. Okay, well, let's remind everyone what that world was all about. So, Daniel, take it away.
Oh boy, let's see if I can remember anything. I didn't re-listen to it because I had like 4 I picked, but I recall, and based on the description of the episode, this was some sort of panopticon, the park itself. And I know there were evil gnomes operating it who were like either highly capitalistic or somehow evil. and it was a very unusual fantasy setting realm because it was wasn't it like a realm that everyone else kind of is like separated from, but they're going into it, like they're being attracted to it. Like the world wasn't normal, I think.
Right. So from what I remember, the city was the city where Death took a vacation.
Yes, that's
and
right.
Death was like actively being pushed out of the city, or like basically put into an infinite loop or an infinite queue.
And I remember, did you share that documentary about Disney lines? Because then I think that's when I watched it.
Yeah. Oh man. Okay.
Yeah.
So if you guys have 2.5 hours, and if you want to watch a fascinating documentary on the history of the Fast Pass in Disney, boy howdy, you should go see Defunct Land's 2-hour video about that. And by the way, Defunct Land in general just produces fantastic work. You should go listen to their stuff, watch their stuff in general. But yes, that was a great one. Yeah, so we started out with, I think the conceit was that it was just like the city where Death took a vacation, and we turned it into an amusement park somehow. And it was horrifying.
Yeah, because it was all centered on that line. We had another setting too where there was a long ass line.
That was the long form one that we did at the start of the year.
Oh,
yeah.
Maybe it affected our minds. Yeah.
Oh, that one was really cool too. Like, damn, I forgot about that one. Yeah. I mean, I didn't forget, like it's always been there, but yeah, that one was really cool too. The conceit of like the number that's like burning like a rune above your head and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's right. It's kind of like what's the anime Death Note has that similar floating how much time you have left.
Again, this is the year where Daniel brought up at least 3 to 4 different anime.
The same 3 or 4 forever.
No, you brought up like 2 new ones this time because I'm like, oh, what is it? Is it going to be Ghost in the Shell? And you brought up something new, and I'm like, whoa, what the heck? I didn't know Daniel knew that.
My grand total of 4 animes I can
tell. No, but still, that's like 2 more than I expected. That's the thing.
And I brought up that I actually watched Death Note this year, or not all of it. Yeah.
Oh yeah, you did. You were talking about with Will too, right?
Yeah.
Which did you watch the live action Willem Dafoe Death Note?
No, of course, the anime one.
Oh, okay. No, so hold on. I know that we have an amusement park to get to, but please, Courtney, give us a short review of Death Note the anime.
Well, I stopped watching it before I finished it because it kind of started to not be good. I thought that I liked the concept behind it. I liked some of the plot, but I thought that the characters could be very frustrating and dumb. Especially there's one female character who's just like,
oh, she's the worst.
Made me want to rip my hair out.
That's when I quit watching. I'm like, oh, this is stupid now.
So I made it to season 2, and then it was just like,
hold on. Did a certain death of a character put you off of that, or is it something else that happened?
It was that, and then the follow-up characters who came in was like, wow, this is...
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, they're awful compared to that character. Yeah.
Yeah, like, I gave up to it at that point.
I stopped reading the manga when that character died because I'm like, this is awful and I don't want to read it anymore.
I mean, I was like you, Courtney. I was willing to like see what happens next, but then I'm like, I don't care.
Yeah, I definitely just stopped caring.
Yeah, because like once that back and forth is over with, you're like, oh, there's no tension to the show anymore because it's like, okay, we get it. Like cool.
It was just some of the most clever plotting though that I've seen. Like the author, she's really smart about that. You know?
Yeah. Except for some of the fascistic stuff that kind of mars the latter half of the series, but you know, we don't have to talk about that because we do have an amusement park full of mangalas to get through. Why do I keep bringing up the mangala park, Courtney? Because it was definitely your fucking fault.
I mean, allegedly, yeah.
It is literally your fault, Courtney.
I know. Yeah, I know.
I distinctly remember like one of my tenets was I wanted this to be like comedic in some way. And then Courtney's like, I want there to be mangalas. And it's like, well, okay, what do we got? And then we had to make it work. And it was a great little fun thing that we had to do for that episode.
Yeah.
Dark humor.
Yes. Very dark.
Black comedy, the blackest of black comedies.
Yeah. That was a fun setting. I did like how it developed, and was not expecting to create an amusement park, but it came out really interesting, also horrifying, and having to like make our rides based on because it was like the embodiments of ideas or concepts that the gnomes got into this place, and like they were basically used as park mascots and like ride mascots and stuff.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, and they were not happy about it.
And we got to come up with like, well, you can't die in this place, so what's the worst thing that can happen? And it turns out medical experimentation is high up on that list, as is effectively just being misted most of the time.
It's like being trapped in a small world forever.
Yeah, exactly.
Speaking of, did you guys see that video recently of that guy who is on some kind of drug and he gets naked and like climbs the small world tower?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, you should watch that video, Daniel. You just see his butt and it's out. And then they're like, I think that they grab like a princess dress and like wrap him up in it at some point once they get him. But yeah, that was the thing that happened. Yeah, so this setting was really fun. It's really dark and twisted. And I think that one of the, because normally, you know, we always come with the faction as the second part, or often we come with the faction. But I think this was definitely one of my favorite parts where we each came with an attraction or a ride.
Yeah.
And that was probably one of my favorite things that we get in. Like, what can we do to make something incredibly dark and twisted? And I think, Daniel, that's where you came up with the panopticon or something like that. Or it was like a giant crystal ball that people were like, it's like on the kiss cam constantly or something like that, right?
Oh yeah. I don't know if did the prompt have a panopticon as part of it or something, or maybe someone else's tenant was that, but I did use the Epcot ball as that, right?
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
I don't know if I was the one who did it.
Yeah, I forget.
It sounds like a Daniel.
It does sound like a Daniel.
I just know that like I saw like the Epcot thing I thought would be a great representation of it.
Yeah.
And that was before the big Las Vegas sphere was a thing as well. So
Oh, what is that?
Yeah.
Oh, Daniel, you don't know what the Las Vegas sphere is? Oh man, hold on.
But yeah, it was definitely one of those things where like other people enjoyed it, laughed at it at these like embarrassing moments of people dropping their ice cream or whatever. But then like you would end up on it and just be mortified at everybody being able to see your embarrassment.
Right. Yeah, that's right. There was that whole emotional angle to it.
Yeah, and it was also like a security system because it was like a literal panopticon.
Yeah.
Daniel, I just sent you a thing. Go ahead and click on that for me, please.
What the fuck is that?
Yes, that is the Las Vegas skyline that you see. And they've created a giant sphere that they can project onto.
And it looks like that in real life?
So that is only how it looks some of the time. Oftentimes it has like all sorts of different light displays, but right now
it's my god, why? I mean, I want that guarding my palace, but that's hideous. Like otherwise,
Daniel, this is the future of architecture. This is like, you don't think that this is going to be everywhere in like 10 years? It's going to be the thing going forward.
It's just terrifying.
Yes. By the way, this was also the episode where we got to come up with a really cool main storyline quest where all of the characters were like workers for the amusement park.
Yeah.
And Daniel got to bring in his real life expertise as such.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Oh god, what a nightmare. I've worked both of those stupid parks. God. The indoctrination is very real. Although I would say Universal wasn't as bad. Disney was worse.
I that doesn't surprise me at all. I feel like Disney, it's like part of a cult as well.
Yes.
Yeah. So Daniel, how did you want to expand upon this world in some way? What did you have in mind?
What are our tables? We have twists. We have what if we loose something in the park, a monster?
That's kind of interesting because remember, it's a world that has no death. So
right. And then we'll figure out what makes this monster scary. Like what would be terrifying to have to flee from in a theme park?
Sure. So do you want to roll on the monster table, Daniel?
Yes.
All right, let's do that. Let's pull it up. Let's see what we got. All right, so the monster that's getting loosed upon our Mangala-filled amusement park is... Well, I think that this is an interesting one, and it's very simple to integrate. We've got a mimic loose in the park.
Oh.
And there's so many different ways that we can do that as well. I mean, you can have, instead of having a roller coaster cart, You just have a mimic that looks like a roller coaster cart. You sit into it. It pretends to be a very sticky roller coaster. And then, oh, look, the roller coaster cart came back empty. That's so weird. That's an easy one to do. Plus, because it's deathless, you're also getting dissolved in an endless, horrifying loop. So that's one way we can go for it. So, Daniel, how do you imagine a mimic in your Mangala amusement park?
I'm trying to think of things that are especially pernicious in theme parks. And aside from $6 sodas, I would say the merchandise is especially pernicious. And so I think perhaps, the merchandise might be infected with mimics. And maybe this infection progresses to the state of a whole roller coaster kind of deal. Maybe it's something that the gnomes don't have control over.
Ooh, that's really fun. So it's merchandising that gets out of control.
Yeah, exactly. Like in real life.
So it starts as a commemorative cup or like a stuffed animal, and then kind of like a Little Shop of Horrors, where it eventually just becomes so big that it rules the world, or at least starts to rule the world in some horrifying way.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah, I like that.
Well, what's your idea for monster, Courtney, though?
Yeah, I mean, initially I was thinking kind of along your line of like merchandising of, I'm picturing like a little kid holding a balloon and then like walk around a corner away from their parents for 2 seconds and then they're just gone. The balloon just has consumed them and is like floating off to its next victim or something.
Love it.
But yeah, you could do a lot there. And I do like the idea of it like growing over time. So it starts as like a single thing in the shop, a single overpriced trinket or whatever, and then it progresses to like maybe it becomes the shop at some point, and then lures people with stuff, and then maybe it like overnight it switches to a small ride, and then eventually kind of graduates to become an entire roller coaster.
Yes,
I love the idea that it goes unnoticed for a while until eventually it's like, when did we get a new ride? And it's like an entire amusement in and of itself. Like,
oh, and also I remember, Daniel, you had wanted these gnomes to be like very bureaucratic and like a pain in the ass about.
Oh yeah,
could be one of those things where like nobody's gonna question the ride because they don't want to anger the people above over this corporate city.
They want it in operation 24/7.
Yeah, it's like they want to keep it up and they don't want to, insult their boss by accident and get thrown into some pit of despair.
Oh my God.
Alternatively, it could be that like they have put in formal complaints, but by the time the bureaucracy gets to it, it's like, well, hold on. You filed for a, large soda-sized threat, and this is an entire amusement. You're going to have to refile.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Just like let loose in the park and stuff like that.
Oh my God.
I like that.
Terrible. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man. That's really fun. That's great. Well, I suppose we should move on to the final world that we're going to be revisiting. And that's going to be my favorite, or not my favorite, because we had, like I said, we had so many bangers this year. We had so many amazing prompts and so many worlds that we built. So again, a huge thank you to everyone who submits prompts. You're the reason that we keep doing this, and you're the reason that we have such cool ideas and cool worlds and how we're able to be so creative. And speaking of creativity, the world that I want to bring us back to is the utopia of 1,000 laws, or I believe it was fully automated luxury gay space communism. So this one, let me talk about this one, because I knew back in like June that this is the one that I wanted to come back to, because in my brain, I kept coming back to this concept. The concept is so fucking cool, where we have a full-ass utopia. It's a ring world, and fascism and capital have both fallen, so it's full communism. There's been a reclamation. It's a full utopia. It's post-scarcity. And the remnants of this world are fascistic capitalists who have become monstrous, like quite literally monstrous, as in like they are werewolves, vampires, etc. And there is only one person, one judge, who is there to eliminate that threat to the fully automated luxury gay space communism. And I just loved that idea so much. And the way that we integrated the kind of monstrous like representations of capital all of that was so cool that I knew that for this episode in particular, I wanted to come back to it and just add more monsters to the list. And how can we mold them into sci-fi, like capitalist fascist monsters? That's what I wanted to come back to. But before we get into that, I wanted to have you guys have your say about this setting a little bit as well.
Is this the one where the cops are actually good because it's Utopia?
Yes, and there's only a singular cop.
It's the one
yes.
cop with a helmet or something. It's a magical movie.
Yeah.
Correct. There's like a whole team that supports them. There's a whole system to it. And it's like actually this massive undertaking that this individual has all this power.
Oh, because he gets informed by this. Wasn't it informed by this larger like altruism network thing?
It's a big AI thing. Yes, exactly.
Okay. And so what would the deal with the monsters? I forget all about them.
Okay, so in our world, rebels, like the rebel quote unquote faction, were fascists and capitalists who were followers of the old ways before it fell, right? And so the remnants of those fascists, of those capitalists, had become monstrous through this technology, that they started to become vampires that were like cybernetic in some way, that were, I think we had come up with a couple of them, and I'm blanking on all of them right now, but that was effectively the kind, we came up with a Medusa as well, I believe. That was a really cool one. But yeah, we had a couple of different options where it wasn't necessarily like a 1-for-1, I suck blood from your neck. It was more like a more metaphorical monster that was just transformed in this way.
What was the horrors of collectible toys? That's described in there too.
Horrors of collectible toys?
I think that had to do with
one of the monsters we had?
I'm trying to remember exactly what it was. It was either related to the monster or like there was something about like a manufacturing thing starting up, people putting out collectible toys as a way to reinvigorate the sort of capitalist feelings, I think. And that's like how some sort of, it's not like really a disease, but it was like almost like a thought disease spread. And I think it would like sap the colors out of things, because the whole idea behind this world was that it was like the Lisa Frank brutalism, where just everything's like violently colorful and stuff. And I think the capitalist stuff leached away at that and revealed like the corporate logos and things underneath.
Yeah.
Okay. That's important.
Because the world itself had like brutalist elements in its architecture, but then
that was reclaimed by the
exactly.
That's the part of the process of communism, is the means of production are taken by the people, and so those old buildings of capital production are like taken over.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I believe that later we also introduced a sort of like mid-century or 1920s aesthetic or something like that. So it also had a little bit of that to it as well. But it was like a mixture of futuristic and like 1920s like noir aesthetic mixed in. But like I said, what I want to talk about is the monsters. So Daniel, what else do you remember about this setting before we continue on?
So little beyond, I remember the cop at one point, like the helmet gets disabled, and then part of the interest was that he had to make moral decisions individually, because part of it is that he didn't have to think about what he was doing because the AI decided what was right for the society. And he just carried it out, right?
Right. That was part of it. And I also remember there was an entire team that supported this individual as well, because I think that the way that we had established it was the reason that the human element was necessary was because the fascists would like knock out radio communication or knock out like the ability for the AI to communicate to them in some way. And so the human had to go in and be like, okay, this is disabled. I need to get it back up and online. But in the meantime, I've got to make some harsh decisions. And that is the burden that I carry.
Yeah.
Then there's also like the therapy aspect after this person. Yeah. Because it was like they had to inflict violence on people, and they were like the only one who had to do this during their tenure as the judge. So afterwards they had all this like therapy and counseling to deal with what they had done.
Yeah, we created a whole system to it where it's like you had the previous judge, and then you also had an apprentice. So you'd like see the before and after the judge, right? So you'd be like, you'd have your mentor there to like walk you through like, hey, I've been where you've been. I know what it's like. And then you have the apprentice who like this is what I'm currently going through. Are you sure you want this job? Are you sure you want to be a judge? Because you can just be in comms.
Was this one that used the veil of ignorance in some way? Because I feel, didn't the judge not know about his own origin at all while he was the judge, like in order to be able to be fair? Yeah. Right.
Yes. Yeah, so that he could stay unbiased, so that if like family, happened to be involved, he wouldn't change his mind based on it.
So we basically did Judge Dredd, but what if it's a utopia? That's essentially what we were just doing.
Yeah. Exactly. And like way more interesting as a result, because the implications and like the stuff that you had to tackle was way more interesting than just like, oh, we got some drug dealers and we got to fight the fascism, I guess. And it's like, they're poor people. We should murder all the poor people. Like, nah, we're not doing that.
Yeah, I think the prompt from, if I recall correctly, it was Commissar Whiskers, was basically like Judge Dredd, socialist utopia. The prompt.
What if we had Judge Dredd, but a utopia? Yeah. Well, anyway, I'm interested in making some goddamn monsters here, folks. So I'm going to roll some dice and we're going to integrate some monsters to turn them fascist, to turn them capitalist, and see how they can integrate them into this utopia. And how do they terrorize this utopia, right? And so the monster that we're going to be working with is giants. How do we integrate giants of fascism, giants of capital into our Judge Dredd utopia setting?
And my mind goes to some sort of giant machine, of course, or colossal machine by default.
Oh, yeah. No, we can easily take that imagery and just use Colossus, right? Like, the monarchy, the Colossus, right? That image, that very famous image. Do you know what I'm talking about?
No.
Okay, hold on. The monarchic Colossus. It's got like, God damn it. Where is it? Okay, whatever. I'll find it later, but it's like from the 1700s maybe. And it's like got a big head, and that's the monarch. And then the body is made up of individuals, like of, humans that represent, this is the head of, and how they represent, right? But I feel like we can make that literal in some ways, where, or if not literal as in like humans, we can do something that's like that, where maybe you can have a hive mind that comes together as a collective that is ruled by an individual in some way. And there's a number of ways that you can do that. And I want to know if you guys think this is a good idea, or maybe we should just jettison it right away.
I was thinking more along the lines of some sort of destructive force, like something that reaps resources from the Earth or the space ring or whatever the resources are, basically. Because it's about like constant consumption, constant growth. So it's like becoming larger as it's consuming things, paying no attention to the suffering that it's causing in the process of its destruction.
It could be an old building that's been animated somehow, an old production facility from a machine. That's kind of what what it was designed to do, is what you're describing. Or it's been converted to do the opposite.
That's a really cool idea, because what I love about that is, one, it echoes the kind of like endless consumption that capital requires in order to pursue like profit. But then what you can also do is you can make it so it's not creating anything of value when it's going through and destroying or reacquiring the stuff that it's consuming. Maybe it's just like, hey, I made like a luxury like area for the building that I'm in right now. Like show how wasteful it actually is by reallocating resources to selfish means in some way, where it's like the entirety of this building is for one individual. And the idea that there's an individual out there who's controlling a massive building, consuming neighborhood blocks in efforts to kind of make their own lives better, I think is kind of an interesting conceit that we can work with too.
Do we have some kind of fabrication? Because I know that there was post-scarcity. I thought that there was some sort of fabrication technology that these machines are capable of, like they were giant printers, right?
Yeah.
Who knows if we already had talked about this in the previous episode, but then perhaps that monster is using that technology in an unpleasant way.
Oh, it could be like spitting out those like cookie cutter suburban houses.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God, yeah.
It's printing out of control kind of deal, yeah.
It's just like printing McMansions the entire time.
Yeah, the giant is like a mega like landlord company type thing.
It's rolling out a new society, like literally.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. Hold on. I have an idea. I'm going to send you guys an image. And I want you to tell me what you think about this image in terms of how dumb it is and how much it fits what we're kind of talking about right now.
Yeah.
And to our listeners, if you want to go ahead and Google search Titan of Industry, the Magic the Gathering card, you can see exactly what I'm talking about, which is basically just a giant building with arms that is made up of other buildings. And I feel like this is the perfect kind of giant that represents what we're talking about. And the idea that you're making mini McMansions that are also like, there's also something fascinating to me about that, where this thing is also spitting out mini golems that are basically the size of like a closet. And that's how they're kidnapping people to work for this massive thing, even though they don't need it, right? The work is purely symbolic in a way, you know, because as Daniel said, we're post scarcity, right? We're fabricating this stuff so it doesn't need to. But the idea that it's able to capture them in like shoebox size apartments, I think is also fun and thematic in a dumb way.
And if it's printing McMansions, I mean, part of the project of communism is to get rid of class division. So it could be that it's like printing McMansions is creating a space for a new class, which is not a thing anymore. And so that invites people who still have a bit of greed in their hearts to live in these McMansions and lord over others, you know, but they're ultimately beholden to whoever operates the machine.
Like I just find this setting to be so fun, and I just wanted to come back to it because goddamn, that's just a fun concept that we can run with. Well, all right. And with that little walk down memory lane, I just want to again thank you all. Thank you to all the listeners. And more importantly, at least to me, I want to sit here and thank Courtney and Daniel specifically for absolutely carrying this year of the podcast. I know that I have been absolutely buried in work trying to get my master's degree, and the podcast, even though I am the primary voice that you hear coming out of the headphones, the podcast would not exist without Courtney and Daniel. And I want to thank them from the bottom of my heart in the deepest and most sincere way possible. Thank you for being here, and thank you for being my friends throughout this process and throughout this journey.
Oh,
we're gonna physically see you soon.
Yes,
yeah,
soon. I'm coming to visit, and I'm going to give you all a hug.
Yeah.
Oh, Siri wants to participate too. Shut the fuck up.
And yeah, I got to try out hosting a couple of times this year, which was new and exciting.
Yes. And one day I will listen to that episode. I'm going to go.
Oh my God.
I'm kidding. I'm joking.
Multiple episodes at that point.
I know. But yeah, seriously, guys, thank you both so much for your friendship and also for carrying the podcast while I haven't been here. Like I said, I couldn't do it without you guys, and there wouldn't be a podcast without you. So sincere love in your direction, especially considering how busy y'all been too this year.
Oh. Nice.
Hopefully we'll have another how many years has it been? 4 years of podcasting?
We are about to be in year 5, Daniel.
Oh my God. Someday senpai will notice us. Someday.
Well, depending on who you consider senpai to be, Justin Alexander and us, we have a pretty good relationship. So
no, my senpai, you know who he is. Tim Rogers, obviously.
Oh, that's never gonna happen. But
right? That's the problem. I'm so lonely.
See, that's not your senpai. That's like your boyfriend. Like that's your boyfriend, Daniel.
It's my future husband.
Yeah, yes, exactly. Despite what your wife might suggest.
Yeah, she's okay with it.
Yeah, I'm sure. But that's going to do it for this episode of World Build with us. That's going to do it for this year of World Build with us. Thank you all so much for your continued patronage. I'm not even going to do the regular intro. You know where to find us at this point. You know where to go at this point. Remember, guys, we love you terribly. We love you very much. Thank you so much for listening. And we're going to get through this together until next year. Woo!